All right, my dudes. I think we got it figured out. We had a little update, and it threw off some of the logins. So sorry for the little on off on the live streams, but with the updates, it gave new session keys for the tokens, which are how you get into like a multi-stream key thing. So it was not functioning correctly. So I think I got that figured out. A little change in what we were going to do today. So originally we have an AT2880 Auradine machine. This is the newer machine. They're essentially just at the edge and now coming out from a production standpoint. We're still kind of in that engineering phase. Our Auradine is still kind of in that engineering and tuning phase right now. So we still don't have yet the machine to show you guys yet. I'm hoping that shows up soon and we can actually show you guys some results. And we've just been waiting. It's just what it is. I mean, a newer company, it's what happens. They got to go through a whole bunch of tuning and just making things work. And then yesterday, if you've been following Twitter, we have been very, very busy. The team here has been going through. We got a new, essentially, upgrade to the project that we had with one of the sites where it's now going to expand to be a larger site. We've gotten through all of the permits and all that thing to get those expanded. So now we're going to be taking one of the sites that's 1.5 megs and moving it to 5 megs. And then doing so, we're going to be adding in some more containers and going through all that planning process. So you guys probably saw on Twitter, if you follow us on Twitter, a bunch of machines coming back and us transporting them. We had the Cybertrucks. So BBT Todd has one, I have one. So now we have 2 Cybertrucks in the fleet and have been using those for some of the local towing. And man, it has started a kind of a crap storm on like Facebook and stuff, and people coming out of the woodwork, you know, laughing at us using Cybertrucks for towing. But I wanted to give everybody a perspective of kind of the decision tree. You know, we do everything going through it and meticulously like planning and stuff with our team. And when you have like in our current situation here at BBT East, where we're located and where at least 4 of the sites that we maintain around here all being within 50 miles. So when we're doing things like swapping machines, swapping parts, doing upgrades, doing cleaning, that kind of stuff, round trip, it's about 100 miles. So at most, at the farthest site. And then most of the other stuff's around 30 miles from us. So like round trip, 60 miles, easy, no problem for something like a Cybertruck towing, even if it's at max towing capacity. It handles that perfectly fine. And then in our commercial facility here, we're single phase. We have 240 coming in. We have a couple of 400 amp panels, and our all-in cost is a little lower. It depends if you look at where the majority of the power is being used. In the evenings, we're down to around 5 cents. In the daytime, it's around 8 cents. So it's blended around 7 cents. If you take our total consumption on a bill, it's about 7 cents here. So when I'm charging the Cybertrucks and stuff, it's about $5 at the end of the day. Like if the Cybertruck's setting at about 12%, 13%. We have a Ubiquity Power Station Pro here. It's 48. It's a 60 amp plug that goes to 48 amp charging. The reality is it's about 12 kilowatts of constant load to charge a truck, and it takes about 4 hours and some change to charge it up. So, you know, you're looking at doing 2 trucks like that. It's about $5. So it is something to, you know, in our circumstance, you know, no gas, no oil, no other maintenance on it. You know, the long term is going to tell. Like, nobody knows, my dude. These things just came out. I have no idea if this is going to be a good plan or a bad plan. It's just what we're doing. And we'll see if they can handle long-term sustainability of being used for towing and all that stuff. I mean, I don't think they went in to fail when they built this thing. I think they went in to try to sell a truck. And let's see if it actually holds up to be a truck. And of course, we have access to F550. You guys have probably seen that, the F550 dump truck that we have for some of the larger requirements and loads and stuff that we have to move. And that thing can tow a ton, like literally tons and tons. I want to say it's 5-6 tons worth of potential weight in it, from towing plus what's in it. So we have the capability if we need it, and it's a 6-7 liter diesel. It'll go and do everything we need it to do, along with having F-150 and F-250 access. So, it's just, people see the Cybertruck and they start to freak out. And when you look at I've had the cost of maintenance on other vehicles forever, right? I have that. I have those numbers. I know what that cost me. I know what, towing 7,000, 8,000 pounds, 80 miles and an F-250 is going to cost me. It's just a better solution. I think EV is a better solution if you're close. If you're not close, it's not a better solution. You spend a lot of time. And BBT Todd has that experience going back and forth to Wisconsin from Illinois a lot. And, if you don't have a good battery, a large battery size, you're going to be spending a ton of time charging. And it's just not ideal for if you're doing a constant all the time. So it's around the town stuff. So somebody asked if there's a flatbed converter. I haven't seen anybody cut one up yet. I think there's such a high dollar vehicle right now that you're not seeing. I think as they start to go down price wise, you'll start to see some more modifications happening to them. I think like the last notice I saw, there's about 27,000 Cybertrucks out there that are out in the wild, and you'll start to see accidents and things happen, and then people taking those accident trucks and then doing it because they have salvage titles, taking a salvage title Cybertruck and then doing some cool shit with it, like maybe cutting some of the back off and then making like a big flatbed conversion or something like that, or doing some crazy stuff. I mean, Whistle and Diesel will be messing with some stuff too. You said, no, the 550. No, the F550. No, that's for, you were thinking that like if I was going to do it with the Cybertruck. No, the F550 is just a dump truck. It's a big dump truck. What's real world? Somebody's asking, what's the real world towing mileage per charge? The best I've done, and I've gotten really close. I've gotten into where we've pulled into this lot at 1%, and I was right at almost 170 mile round trip, and that was towing both ways, heavy load. So, I mean, I've heard people getting up 180, 190 miles. This is a pretty flat area. And we weren't really gaining anything. Like, so some people have a slope, will climb up a hill, and then when they're coming down, they're charging some of the way, so that extends the range. We're pretty flat everywhere, and it's windy. Southern Illinois is pretty flat, so you're eating it the whole way, both ways. So we have tested a miner in the back of the truck. The 50 amp that comes with the truck will run up to 2 Bitcoin miners. I would like to do a longer test with that. We did actually L7 units, which are the script miners that do Dogecoin and Litecoin. We just thought it would be very memester, to just put a couple Dogecoin miners in the back with Starlink attached and then just drive around and see what it would do. It works fine. It loads, it runs. Starlink keeps it running, so technically you could run. I mean, it's absolute just mockery of like, why not try it? But it was more of saying, can you do it? We do have a welder you can plug into it. Works good for that. But I mean, again, like my older F-150 had like the power set up in the back too, and it could do a lot of the same things, but I think that was 30 amp. It wasn't 50 on that. So it was 30 amp 240 connection. So you could do one miner on there. This you could do, 2 miners. You can get 9 kilowatts out of it. Do a diesel generator in the back. We do have a diesel generator we could put in the back just to troll, but I'm trying not to piss off everybody in the world with this thing. I do akin driving it around, as love it. There's people that love it and hate it. It's kind of like driving with a MAGA hat on or something. Like, you're gonna have some people that are cheering you, and you're gonna have some people that are flipping you off. And driving the Cybertruck, it is a lot like that. Like a lot of the younger kids, children, I have kids myself, I take it to school and like the kids are, taking pictures and cheering it on. And then I'll go, just down the road and, somebody's driving most of the time in another truck and I'm getting flipped off the whole time. So it's like, it's interesting. I mean, it's a polarizing, look. So yeah, it does definitely affect us. But I mean, with us being in the Bitcoin and the mining space for so long, I mean, it was just a natural kind of order for me to try to go with electric because we have access to cheap electric because of the volume of electric we purchase. So it made sense from a cost standpoint that it just that extra enhanced lower cost of ownership for us. So are you the guy that all the other YouTube cryptos talk about going to jail for a while for crypto related stuff? No, I'm not that guy. You're probably mixing me up with Ben Armstrong, because I guess we kind of have sometimes the same look with the beard and stuff, but no. Yeah, somebody was laughing at me. Yeah, BBT, the crypto gangster. LOL. No, man, I'm not. I've been around longer than most crypto YouTubers. I think I'm one of the older crypto YouTubers out there. I mean, if you look at this channel, we've been out here since 2013, making content for folks in the crypto and Bitcoin space. When I made this channel, I want to say Bitcoin was sitting at about $80. It pumped up to 1,200 pretty quickly in 2020 or 2013, and then went back down to about $100. So Bitcoin was around $100 when we were mining with this channel and showing people how to get into the mining aspect. So no, I've been in it a long time, and we handle a lot of stuff through observe and report, my dudes. Like, I look at it like there's a lot of people in the world that are telling you what to do or suggesting what to do. And I look at it like I'll take a suggestion, but I want to try it myself, and I'm going to observe and report what I'm seeing. I think it's the cleanest and the healthiest way to communicate with people online is saying, I'm not telling you the way. I'm telling you a way to do it. And that's the way we're doing it. And here's what our results are. I think that's the safest place in the world on the internet for people, because sometimes we'll do stuff and it's not right. And we'll be like, that's not good. And then we'll have to make some corrections. And then we try to share that with you guys to say, hey, we went down this path. Maybe it works for you. But this was our results. And I think that's a good community building way to communicate with people at any kind of scale, and not also set expectations like on the longer term progress that we make in certain things. We definitely like sharing that and saying, this is a good way to do something. And then if you guys watch some of our content, when I'm doing kind of the micro blogs, it's kind of like, here's our ops cadence. We have a lot of the team back today in the back room, working through roughly around 320 ASICs that we pulled back out of two 20-foot containers. And a lot of that work is doing hash reports and getting the machines cleaned and ready to be redeployed. So sometimes if machines are out of warranty, we will take those machines and we'll consolidate the parts. Sometimes that doesn't always work because you'll have different control boards and things, and you'll have pick chips on boards that are looking for particular, the hash board's looking for a particular control board, that kind of thing. But where you can get machines to function together, and then you'll have a consolidated good machine, and then you'll have a machine that just has a whole bunch of things that need to be done with it. And then, we found that to be a very quick iterative when we're replacing or fixing sites out abroad, of just doing quick consolidation and just try to save time. It's all about time savings. You can get lost in some of the repairs and stuff of on lots of machines and stuff. And this was the same way with GPU mining. Like, you don't want the one graphics card to take down the whole machine. You take that one graphics card out and you just get six. I feel like if you have a 6-card machine, you'll run it with 5. I mean, it's just like, what's the end game here? It's to continue to mine as much as you can. None saying, been following you since 2017. Very cool to see the evolution you guys have made. Yeah, I mean, it's just like we went in heavy into this space, and invested across the board. And why I haven't been on as much sharing with you guys, I mean, a lot of this has been just learning myself on how to scale a business larger. There's one thing when you have a business and it's smaller and it's maybe one or two people and you don't have all these other elements, but I'll give you kind of a quick rundown on just like on a small Bitcoin business. I mean, there's a lot of other things that you just don't think about until once you're kind of running. And, you know, when you're going out and you're servicing sites and you're doing stuff like that, you got to consider a few things. Like most, you know, permits and zoning related things, if you're going to go out there and service a site, is like you need to have a certificate of insurability. You have to go out and get insurance, not just with the people, but what's happening on the site. There's insurance things like errors and emissions. Like if you have an employee out there and something, they drop a machine or something happens, while a small ASIC these days aren't as much, and you know, we could, you know, potentially eat that cost if we dropped a customer's machine as an example. Like we'll pay for that. But like if that unit, let's say, is like an L7 or something that's more expensive, like $5,000-$10,000 piece of equipment, you know, we have insurance on that, right? We'll be like, hey, this is what happened. You know, we have cameras on most of the sites and everything that we do, so we can learn from that mistake. Like, hey, let's not carry it that way. Let's try to get better equipment. Let's get more, you know, automated dollies. Let's get things that make sense, invest back into the business. So, you know, try to optimize it and then learn from some of the other businesses that are around that do kind of just shipping and receiving, logistics, supply chain, all those kind of things that matter when you start working at any kind of scale. And Todd and myself both had a lot of experience in that at a big enterprise level. But when you try to take enterprise processes and bring them down to a smaller business, I mean, some things make sense, some things don't. Like it's a waste of time because you're not really getting any value, but putting a lot of time into particular things. You know, you learn a lot in that. And so a lot of that stuff we've been learning, right? So, I mean, bringing you guys through some of the business stuff is now kind of my goal to help anybody that's trying to start a small business in this space. And that's a lot of the stuff that we do from the consulting side right now is like we help, you know, startups get to a place that they're sustainable. Like, you know, what's the cash flow? What's the, you know, you got to pay for all the things, and how do you do that? And how do you set, you know, a competitive price and all that kind of stuff. So there's a lot of that kind of stuff that we've went through and learned. The Don says, hey, BBT, if you were starting today with 50,000, how would you go about it? I mean, we're at a local close to all-time highs on certain things, and certain things haven't performed as well with Bitcoin's growth. So Bitcoin's close to 62 now. We had a very interesting bump in the last few days. Anybody's been tracking, Bitcoin went down to $58,000 yesterday, and now it's ratcheted back up to almost 63. Because of that volatility, dollar cost averaging makes absolute sense. And again, not financial advice. I'm just telling you how we handle. If I was in that seat with 50,000 that was going to be dedicated to this space, I would do it through a dollar cost average buy period. I would have a schedule. If you look at pricing data, meaning go out to somewhere that you can get, like Crypto Compare as an example, you can get a CSV file download of Bitcoin's pricing over time. And you could do this for other currencies too. I'm going to use Bitcoin as an example. And you can see what I usually would do is bring that into like a big table. I would add a column that showed me the days, like Monday through Sunday. What you'll see is a lot of Sundays, for whatever reason, seem to be dip days. Like, I don't know if it's just because open markets are not there. There's not a lot of people doing things with certain exchanges or whatever because it's it's a weekend. But Sundays usually typically have dips. I would set your buys up on when those dips would happen, and then just dollar cost average your 50K in, because you want to have revenue. You want to have some capital for conversion. If it's USDT, something, take that currency, move it into somewhere that's quick. Maybe it's on an exchange, and then you'll be able to do like a quick purchasing over a period of time. And then you're starting to balance out that entry, because Bitcoin might pump to $150,000 this year and then go right back down to 30. Nobody knows. The only thing that, in these kind of markets is more bigger liquidity coming in adds a level of stability to certain levels because you're going to have open buy orders. I said this on the last stream, and I think it's a key point in just Bitcoin and some of these other larger currencies in general. The one thing you got to remember is when you see a lot of the news out there related to the purchasing of large tranches of Bitcoin for like an ETF as an example. So if you have somebody like a BlackRock out there and they are buying and loading into the ETF, the exchange traded funds, a lot of that stuff comes in through like an OTC. So if it's an order over the counter, you may have a participant out there that has Bitcoin, been sitting on it forever. Who knows? That person at some point may hit a price target where they're like, you know what? I need some liquid. I need to, pay down some debt, whatever. And they'll go to an order desk or, if it's, any of these companies like Coinbase, Binance, something like that. And then they'll open up an OTC trade. And so this happens behind the line, essentially. So this is like a party-to-party transaction. You'll see coins go from one wallet to another wallet. They have some internal spot price that they decided on. Maybe it's lower because you're trying to lock the volume. And none of that hit the market. It never adjusted the market, but you'll hear these big transactions, 100,000 Bitcoin, or, $100,000 worth of Bitcoin, $10 million worth of Bitcoin, and nothing happens with the price. Only the speculation of the discussion, the fact that this occurred by this company, that helps build consumer confidence because they're like, hey, they're YOLOing $10 million into this. And then the market sentiment, retail follows in, right? And then you start to get the FOMO when you start seeing huge moves. But the reality is that a lot of these things are done on OTC standpoint. So they're off market. They're not on any kind of exchange adjusting what's available on said exchange. And you get these systemic bots that are connected to all these exchanges and then doing all the activity based on public sentiment, based on trolling Twitter, looking through everything, and then making those buys. So you won't see usually typical huge moves when big companies are doing stuff, because now what you will see, though, on the flip side of it is that if that OTC isn't set up, let's say with this Mt. Gox thing, I'm going to switch or enhance this discussion by talking about something I think that's caused the move yesterday from down to 58 back up to 63 is Mt. Gox came out, which has to do these distributions to clients, since the 2003 or 2013, 2014 failure of Mt. Gox. They've, recovered a lot of the Bitcoin. They're now having to pay back all these clients, and they're doing them in these tranches. Well, this month, some of that was set to be released, and people were worried that the people would get, clients would get these coins and they would just dump them on the market because they've been hodling forcibly since 2013, 2014. So then they just go to the market, get their Coinbase account, and just dump it, right? Well, that has been moved to 2025. So that I think would have people would know like here's a real event that could be occurring where people are going to get a tranche of Bitcoin and that they could be dumped into market. And so people don't want to be catching that falling knife. They're going to be like, oh, I'm going to pull back out a little bit, be into cash, let somebody dump a market and then try to jump back in, right? So you get those kind of potential situations when you start hearing about somebody like a Mt. Gox starting to release coins to people. So now with that being pushed until 2025, now people are like, okay, the can's been cooked down the road. Let's go. Let's see what the market gets to. Mike Novell, I lost theoretically millions of money in Bitcoin. That's what we get for relying on the Magic the Gathering financial site. So yeah, so Mt. Gox was originally a Magic the Gathering card trading site, and they just kept the name. It's every year Mt. Gox gets the way. There's it's a very interesting set of circumstances now with all these other large financial liquidity vehicles in there. And it's the same thing. Like I'll see stuff about let's say MicroStrategy as an example, doing another purchase. I mean, that stuff's they're not buying that from the market, my dudes. They're buying that from a broker deal with somebody that has a tranche of Bitcoin, and it could be an exchange too, just taking supply that they have and just marking a deal and not going against the order book, which then starts to adjust like what's for sale at what price. So you do have that kind of situation, too. That's why you don't see a lot of that stuff. Let's see here. I have another question here. Was watching your networking video. Was wondering when you have multiple VLANs on ASICs, but one PC to manage, how does that PC access all the VLANs? You leave restrictions off. So having multiple VLANs is just segregating the IPs into their own little virtual LAN. The PC is connected to the router's OS. So it's the PC is just thinking of like a terminal to the OS that's on the Ubiquiti router. And then the Ubiquiti router is keeping the linkage to where you can access each of the VLANs with no issue. So as long as your PC is if you're trying to remote in, like it knows that the router is handling all those routing to each of those VLANs. So your PC is just setting on like the default domain and can access all those VLANs unless you put on restrictions, correct? George says, hey, I didn't know you were live. So this is something that we're trying to do now every Friday at noon. This is going to be a standing live session. If I can have like new content for you guys to bring a product in here, I will. We were hoping that the Auradine 2880 would be in by now for I could show you, do kind of an unboxing. We have set this office up with a multi-camera setup. So like I can take my big Canon camera and now have it like in another room. And then we have essentially the RF lapel mic, so I can walk around the office, and then we could take it kind of throughout the live stream, the live stream throughout the whole office. That gives me a little more flexibility to bring some newer kind of live content to you guys. Next week, we'll try to do that with the back room. We were trying to get it actually done today. I had a couple of the cameras set up, but then as you notice, I went live, I went off live, I went live like 3 times because we had some updates in here, and I was just like, we're going to do kind of like an AMA kind of thing today and just talk through some stuff. We have a lot of just new, we have new folks here. We've been doing a lot of training. We have a couple interns also now. We got a lot of change with a couple of the sites that we can go through. There is just a mountain of content in our space right now, and really getting ready for this kind of heavy bull run that we all anticipated are going to happen. I mean, there's going to be some interesting stuff happening in the next month, with, potentially new president. Or if if the current incumbent wins, what does that mean? How does that affect crypto? I think there's gonna be a ton to talk about, and then give you guys just a kind of a rolling perspective, from our side where we're in it and we have, vested capital, not just in sites, but in just the ecosystem in general and building out services and, how's that affect us, and trying to give you guys just a honest brokering of that. What happened to your nephew? My nephew that used to work here is now in the Air Force. So he moved on. And we had a few people that were here and that had moved on. BBT Ray moved on, went into the Air Force too. I have a couple interns here now my son's one of them now. He's old enough to get in here. 17 turns 18 this year. He's learning the ropes on how to. He's in the back right now going through machine testing and doing hash reports. So hash reports are kind of a pain because you want to see what a machine does. You're trying to repair it, that kind of stuff. So. UT, of course, the big buy OTCs. Otherwise, they would get called out to manipulate the market with those big purchases. There's some behavior, obviously, when you're in Well, I mean, think about. I try to stay off of like any kind of idea that somebody's sitting there trying to manipulate it. We all know that people are there's definitely market makers that are manipulating price, and you just look at the enforcement actions yesterday with was it GoBit? I think it was GoBit. There was a couple out there that got hit for doing market manipulations on exchanges, and when it's all in like the approach, like it's all in like how you handle like a fair market participant, retail market, speculative market type of thing, activities, people posting stuff on Reddit, whatever, you have people short selling. It's I always looked at the market from an exchange and those type of services as and anybody participating in that kind of stuff, you got to look at that like real life PvP, right? It is real life financial PvP. And there are some rules, right, on major financial markets. And good enforcement action is finding the bad folks that are manipulating the data, changing information of what's in the reality. For that gain. And, that's good enforcement. That's good enforcement for somebody that's like totally wrecking everybody else on purpose, or using some kind of manipulation of data set to do that. But then you got people that are just really good at writing software and can find, and we'd seen this back in the MEV days with Ethereum. So when you had an environment that had a queue to where you could create a situation where you could front run people and you could see it mechanically happening. It's kind of like the Flash Boys kind of argument where you got the people that find the closest Bloomberg terminal to the order books and then can see orders coming in at millisecond rate and then try to front run them, right? It's real life PvP. And it's like, it comes back down to what does people at the end of the day want in enforcement and what do they find acceptable in that kind of space. That's why I don't cover a lot of stuff on trading. I think there's a place. The concept of exchange is always going to be there. It should be there. But like trying to win in the exchange battle and try to do day trading and all that kind of stuff, I like something a little more consistent where I can plug in a machine, maintain that machine, and get some level of consistency to my payout. And you can build a business on that. And a lot of people build businesses on product sales and stuff like that. But the market stuff, man, that's like a whole other game. It's like we're all playing an MMO and there's some servers that are PvP. That's a PvP server, my dudes. And some folks are just I think it's just it's kind of one of those dirty jobs, my dudes. BBT and Satoshi are BFSs. Who watched the HBO special? I haven't watched it yet. I saw all the Peter Todd stuff on Twitter about it. That was very interesting. I like his response and his approach to it of like, here's why you're wrong in this documentary. And I like how he explained some of that. That was pretty good stuff. But I think that's a review watching for this weekend, and I'll go through it. Lots of snakes with coats and ties. Again, it's I don't hate the game or hate the players. I mean, there are definitely shysters and folks out there, but again, it's just a PvP server, my dudes. So another interesting, future growth here is some of the immersion stuff that we're doing in the back right now with the fog hashing C2 unit. So we do have an AT 1500 from Auradine, and they do have I think it's a 3680. I have to get the right numbers on there. Immersion new unit, 4 nanometer, that we're interested in doing some testing on too, and just seeing how stable it is from the folks that have shared their information with us. We've recently did a site in South Carolina that was Immersion, and just looking how much more efficient that is. But what's the long-term sustainability and getting some of those numbers out to you guys? I think that's a key. That's a key dynamic. That's kind of like, is it worth it, and how has it been? What's the results now? It's kind of like the Cybertruck we were talking about earlier. Like, we're using it to tow. It's been fantastic. Highly recommended if you're within 180 miles round trip of wherever you're at. However, what's the long term on it? I know nobody knows. I'm going to tow with it every day that I can, and if it breaks, I'll be the first to tell you. I haven't really had any issues. The only issue I've had, and it just popped up, is I had some issue with the air compressor that's on it, and it gave me an error saying that it couldn't lift the truck, and then when I turned it off and turned it back on, everything worked again. So I don't know if it's just a fluke. It has a lot of software. The thing gets updates. It's a very different platform. Tesla cars are different platforms compared to normal cars because they're literally live updating software that runs the vehicle and does very critical systems, like literally almost every day. So like things that work a certain way may work a little different. You may get a new UI the next day. It's like car 2.0, truck 2.0. So it's just different. I can't imagine that happening all the time to like, my old Ford. And so this is like a new way of doing things. And it's cool because you get new features that you didn't have and that you didn't pay for. And it just happens. Like, I don't pay any extra for that. It just happens. But with that, they can also break stuff. Any kind of software tool chain, you can break things. So we'll see how that ends up going. The question from Mike Falcon. You guys can throw some questions out here. We'll keep going here for about another 15 minutes or so. When it comes to running your business, what are you focused on moving forward? Paying off expenses and debts, or borrowing money to build and grow? Saving your cash right now for future investments and equipment? Thanks. Right now we're in kind of an expansion mode, but it is there is a cycle to things, and you don't want to build too fast. The one thing I've learned is building fast too quick. If you guys remember, when we first started this at BBT East, I had 6 people here, and we hadn't even had one of the sites built yet. And that was too fast. It was too many people. And we effectively ran out of things to do. Like what we had internally here got all done. We redid every GPU that we had up in Wisconsin. That took about 2 months. So 2,500 GPUs to literally open up every one of them, clean every GPU, put new thermal paste on them. And that was like an internal paid for activity to just make sure the folks were trained on how to do that, because we were doing a lot of GPU repair in the beginning, where we were, people had been mining now with some of these GPUs from 2014, 2015, and we're looking to, either sell the GPU or move on to the next series, which at the time when we first built this in 22 was when I built BBT East. We were still GPU mining. Ethereum was still being mined. Ravencoin, Flux, Ergo, a lot of the coins still had enough to where a normal home miner participant could participate and make a revenue. And those GPUs that were being used, the 1060s, 1070s, 1080s, 1080 Ti's, all those kind of GPUs needed service. So when we were here, most of our work here for the first year, as we were building the Bitcoin mine down here, was mostly GPU work, and that kind of dried up. And so then we had to retool, repivot, and then a few folks went on to services. And then, it was just, when there was not a lot to do here, a lot of people didn't have things to do. So a couple of people just moved on. And it was like, okay, well, do we expand harder into Bitcoin and into ASICs and all that? And do we turn into like an ASIC shop? And essentially that's what we've kind of done. And that really comes down to, that's the larger business and enterprise kind of approach on mining, is that can sustain a standalone business that's mostly niche Bitcoin crypto, right? Is if you're going to have a facility and a warehouse and people and all that kind of stuff, you need something that's more consistent. And Bitcoin provides, from a mining aspect, that consistency. So it isn't that I alienated all my GPU bros. We love GPUs. Between Todd and I, we have boxes of GPUs still. It just comes down to, like, if you're going to run a business, like, you got to have a sustainable amount of revenue coming in to at least pay for employees, insurance, all that kind of stuff. So that's where most of the focus has been. And in that learning aspects of that, we can now branch out into other things. So from back to your question of, like, really where are we at? It's been an invest period right now because we feel that this space is going to grow. If you've noticed, a lot more marketing related stuff with us, meaning from our just what the services we provide and getting more content out to you guys. We're investing in that, right? To get more content out to you guys. And then ahead of this, I think what is going to be a growth period for Bitcoin, where we'll get a bipartisan bill through Congress, at least in the United States. That bill is going to come with some new guidance of people on how to participate. And I think there's still some serious fights in the space, right? You can see some proliferation of regulatory environments, at least in some districts in some states, where they're trying to put, like, bit licenses on people or regulate Bitcoin mining in some aspect of, like, knowing your customer type of thing on, like, broker services. So, like, let's say you have a small mine and you're like, I'm going to mine with NiceHash. Well, NiceHash is a broker service. So NiceHash now is requiring AML KYC, because, for the buyer side too, because you get that situation where somebody could be trying to clean their coins and just sending in Bitcoin that might be tainted, buying your mining power, and then getting freshly minted coins that they're just repointing your mining power to their pool, and then getting fresh new coins, and they're just washing their coins. That creates a dynamic that makes, regulators want to regulate, like, broker services. And then they're like, well, if we're doing that, why don't we go to pools now? And we want to know who's all mining in the pool side. And I think that's something that should be fought against, because that's just puts too much overhead and friction in the system that functionally is better and works because of that less friction. It shouldn't be that's just not the right place to do that kind of regulation, in my opinion. I think you get the coin, you already have all that infrastructure at the exchange level and at the liquidity adjustment, where you're going from the coins that you mine and you send them up somewhere to exchange it. There's already all that KYC infrastructure in place. Like, if you mine $30,000 a month in Bitcoin because you have a small mining operation, let's say 20, 30 petahash, a couple containers, like, you got to pay for your power, right? So you're going to liquidate some coin, and they're going to be able to see that. There's very little friction in that, right? You can go deploy capital, get a couple 20-foot containers, get them plugged in, point them to a pool, get your power rate established, turn everything on, let it cook for a month. If your power rate's a decent rate, let's say you're all in 5 cents, you're able to generate some revenue to now pay back your investment. Well, you're going to be liquidating some of those coins. Well, you're going to be going to an exchange, or maybe you get enough volume to go to an OTC. You're going to have all that KYC AML stuff at that point, right? Because you're liquidating freshly minted coins for that. So to go to a pool and say, hey, we want you to have every miner registered, it's just asinine to me. So I think those are kind of like just the space that we're going to go through, because you're just going to create so much more friction from that standpoint, and which then disincentivizes it, and people are just going to mine somewhere else. And that's the counter argument. Is like, if you're going to put those kind of restrictions on it, it happened in New York, like the New York bit license. There were a lot of Bitcoin miners up in Niagara Station, and they all moved because there was just too much regulation up there. They're just like, you guys are nuts, I'm out. And then everybody went to Texas. They went to, Kentucky, ERCOT, down there in Texas, Oklahoma, Nebraska, South Dakota, Southern Illinois here. There's a lot of other opportunities, and this is kind of a catch-22 for any kind of local utility or the zoning department or anybody that's going to put a lot of regulation on this, that is not sensible. Like I would say sensible regulation and like a Bitcoin mining as an example. And I've given this before in front of city councils and in front of like county boards when we go and talk. I mean, if you guys watch a couple videos back from us, I was at a city council and I was explaining, you know, they let us put the camera in there and bring the microphone, and they asked us all kinds of really good questions, and I was able to answer, you know, a lot of their concerns. And like a fair market regulation or sensible regulation would be like, hey, let's not put this right next to a neighborhood. Like that makes sense, right? It's like, it's common sense. I don't want a whole bunch of 20-foot containers blasting 24/7, 70 decibels at 150 feet away next to a house. Doesn't make any sense. That's not helping anybody, right? But if I'm in the middle of a farm field, I'm out in the middle of nowhere when it comes to like people living and stuff, I want a fair market opportunity to find the best rate that I can, and that makes sense for me to sublease an area or maybe for some special use permit. And then we're leveraging maybe a stranded energy source like we have down here in Southern Illinois with lots of wind power and not a lot of demand. So a lot of these windmills are turned off. Like you drive by them, it's windy, they're turned off. They have no base load. They're only doing basic base load, and they don't want to get the thing running because there's just not the demand since post-COVID. So, you know, we're turning these things on and, you know, generating revenue for the market and the system for using those, you know, that base load and that power. And it ends up being good for the utility. They have a more consistent load. And then we're able to participate in this space at a fair market rate that we can compete with the rest of the world on. You know, I think, you know, other states and governors are seeing this, and they're trying to build incentives to bring it to the, you know, the U.S. And again, a lot of my conversations on these are very U.S. specific. A lot of Bitcoin mining and aspects are all over the world. I mean, there's folks from everywhere, from Kazakhstan. There's still people mining in China, Malaysia, Philippines, South America, North America, like if we talk Canada, Central America. I mean, we've you know, helped people all around this world mine. There's a huge expansion right now happening in Nigeria right now is just exploding with Bitcoin mining, a lot of facilities and stuff going up. So, you know, this thing's going to shift, and that's part of the big thing that we'll talk to like senior leaders in municipalities and stuff, and just say, you know, this is the risk is we go in here, put all this infrastructure in, and then, you know, they're in containers. I can lift and shift them in weeks, less than weeks, like the whole thing. I can literally pull them in a couple days. I mean, we just pulled 2 20-foot containers apart in one day, right? So to where I could had a crane out there in the afternoon and yank the container. So tearing all 324 machines out of there, getting them onto trailers, getting them out of there, and then just having the power disconnected and lifting the container, that all can happen in one day. So, there is a poison pill, as it were, for, you know, really bad regulation. And I think that's what the sensible discussion is like. There's no question here, my dudes. Like if you put too much on it, people are just going to move and leave. That's just the way it goes. Dennis Wilshire is asking, how soon do you think you'll need to move to immersion or hydro in order to compete with the ever increasing hash rate? So those are not direct, there's cost associated to immersion and hydro that are disproportional right now. Meaning, like, I can compete on an air-cooled setup, even though my hash rate's lower and my joules per T are higher, because the all-in cost to maintain that immersion system and the risk associated to, like, if we lose a pump or something in the manifold happens, clogging, you know, if the pump goes down, there's more moving parts. There's more things on the infrastructure side versus the miner. You do get the benefit that the miner stays up longer. It doesn't have near the issues that we've seen in other immersion sites. But Like it's not a zero sum game there. It's not a better necessarily solution yet. I think some people are seeing that there is some opportunity there that it is. The unfortunate thing is I think the infrastructure of immersion and hydro is good. I think it's like the probably better way to do it. But it all comes back down to, are the machines solid enough to handle it? Like where I've seen people put machines in some of the immersions, but the hash boards had a bad batch, and they're just, no matter if they were in the water, if they were air, or they are immersion, the board sucks, and that they're not consistent. And now these folks have to pull that stuff out of immersion. Now you have a lot more effort to fix it or clean it, because now you have a solution that has to drip off of it. It's saturated. It gets dustier faster. It's kind of like a SWOT diagram. I feel like you were back in those guys in the NBA days, like doing like a SWOT analysis on it, of figuring out what's the good, what's the bad, what's the ugly, what's my benefit, and then doing like a true cost benefit analysis on it. I would say air cool is always going to be the quick and agile and fast, and tuned correctly. And I think in the long run, it ends up still competing very well when you're taking an all-in cost. You know what I mean? Hydro in certain jurisdictions or not jurisdictions, geographic areas are definitely better and more consistent, but you run into even more, I think, than immersion on a risk standpoint. There are the new closed loop stuff where you're not having to replace the water and stuff, and the dielectric fluid, or not, sorry, dielectric, but the like if we were putting any kind of mixture in there to ensure for not freezing, like glycol, something like that, having to deal with those risks and stuff. Like if it spills and I got to deal with the EPA, that kind of thing, or it's just the mixture's off, or you have a hard water mix with it, and you start getting sediment in it. I think the first version, and I think they're on V3 or 4. I think HK3s are currently available. HK5s are coming out, which is like the closed loop stuff that Bitmain's putting out, where it's just like if you were buying a Corsair cooler for your home computer, same kind of basic concept. It's all closed loop. The radiator, the cooler, all that's all built in. You don't have to switch the fluid out or anything like that. Maybe those will be a better long-term solution, but I think it all comes back down to all-in cost. And what I've seen is our guys that are on immersion have a much higher cost. So the efficiencies, is it made up on the IRR, which is your initial rate of return based on your CapEx investment, and then how much on the OpEx are you saving? Are you increasing now because you have other folks that you have to hire to support immersion? I don't know. I think the models we have is the most efficient air cooled, set to an optimal setting, meaning like if you have a 200 terahash Bitmain unit and you're running it at 180, and you get if you do the algebra on it, you're getting a much more better joules per T, a little less hash rate, but like that's like the most optimal setup, least amount of higher cost on maintenance type of aspect. What's up, my dudes? 223 live on YouTube. That is fire, my dudes. I am very, very happy and proud. We're starting to see some of the groups come back. And I hope that you guys like this. So every Friday, I want to give 2 shout outs before I kind of wrap this one up today, because we've been going for almost an hour. I'm going to be working on every Friday at noon Central Standard Time on these live streams. And we're going to try to get a schedule out there of what's going to be included in the live stream. Today's was kind of ad hoc, because we did have a plan to have a machine here that we could open up and start to go through some live testing. But it's going to be not just me talking through you guys, or to you guys about different aspects of what we're doing. It's going to be product review. If we get a new product or unit in, and some of these might be out at sites. So we'll be on location on a couple of these live streams, sometimes on Fridays, with you guys, and just doing a live stream on site. BBT Todd and I will be down at the Raven Coin Cruise in November. We're going to be on the Icon of the Seas, which is a Royal Caribbean's big ship, with Tron Black and a whole bunch of the folks from the Ravencoin side. We'll try to do a live stream out there when we're out on that Friday. Hopefully we can do that. There's Starlink on there, so we'll be able to do that. But each of these live streams on Friday, so make sure you're doing that on BitsBeTrippin.io. We have a newsletter that we're producing and just trying to bring you guys just straight like observe, report what we're doing, different product reviews of things that we have. Again, we buy the products. If we tell you guys, like we bought like the fog hashing C2 unit, we bought the Auradine units. Like if we're getting any kind of units for test, we'd always tell you guys. But a lot of the stuff I like to buy and then test myself and then give you guys just like, there's no like bias or any of that. It's just like, is this going to work for me or not? And then just tell you what I like and what I don't like on it. Kind of like what I've done with the Cybertruck. Like there's a lot of things I love about it. There's a few things that kind of annoy me about it, but by and large, it's been very good stuff. But yeah, so if you guys are, keep your calendars on that for Fridays at noon. We'll have a regular standing live stream there. And then if we can bring on other folks too, we'll try to bring on, on those lives, other folks with us and, kind of keep a regular cadence. And they will be simulcasted to X, YouTube, the 228 viewers there. And if we get approved to be able to do it live on TikTok, it'll be going to TikTok, Instagram Live, all those kind of things too. So make sure you guys are posting stuff. And if any of these live streams you ever have any questions, if you're out on YouTube, just put it down below on YouTube. I usually try to respond to a lot of those if you have any specific questions on stuff. All right, my dudes, it's been real. It's been fun. It's been real fun.